Meditation lecture given by His Divine Grace Srila Harikesa Swami Vishnupad, recorded on the 13th of February 1983 at New Radicum, Sweden.
Devotee of the Lord knows perfectly well some very essential points. And that is that, number one, he is the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is, above everything else, the most essential principle in this Krishna consciousness movement. There is much knowledge that one can gain in this Krishna consciousness movement, especially if one studies the books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada very carefully. One can gain enormous amounts of knowledge. It is not difficult. But if after gaining so much knowledge, one has not come to the conclusion of surrendering to the Supreme Lord, then leave the window, forget it. All that knowledge is just like the burden of the beast. Shrama eva hi kevalam. In fact, it is stated, Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Japak Sapakshya Apanasya Hidehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. One may have or be decorated with all of the wonderful opulences of austerity, of good learning, of good culture, of proper standard of life in all different ways. He may be a very perfect, but if he does not have the decoration of Bhagavat Bhakti, which means devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all of this is like decoration of a dead body. When in India bodies are going to be burned, they decorate it very nicely with oils and with flower garlands and with good clothes, and they take a procession through the streets, and the bands are playing, and then at the end they just burn the whole thing. So, if one has all kinds of material qualifications or even semi-spiritual qualifications, after all, a devotee of the Lord is learned, and if one is very learned, that is useful. If one is very austere, that is useful. But without Bhagavat Bhakti, or devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of those qualifications are like decoration of the dead body, which is, after all, discarded. So, the whole purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement is to develop devotees of Krishna, ultimately. We want people to become devotees of Krishna. And especially we want a class of men who are very good devotees of Krishna. Them we call the Vaishnavas. There are many classes of devotees of Krishna. There are the Prakrita Bhaktas, the Kanishta-adhikaris, the Madhyama-adhikaris, who are in the middle platform, the preachers, and the Uttama-adhikaris, who are on the topmost platform of renunciation, liberation. They are only interested in the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet and nothing else. Of these three classes, the Madhyamadhikari class is that class which is most required in this Krishna consciousness movement. That means Ishare tadadineshu balisheshu disatsuva prema maitri kripopeksha yat karoti samadhyama. That person is understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His most worshipable Lord, and He is the Lord's eternal servant. That is, of course, always the beginning point. When Sanatana Goswami told Lord Chaitanya this question, Kayami, Kenayamai, Jane Tapatraya, who am I? What am I doing here? And why am I always suffering these threefold miseries of material existence? Lord Chaitanya replied, Jivara Svarupoi Krishna Nityada. Krishna Tatasta Shakti Veda Ved Prakash. You are the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simultaneously one and different from Him. That is the beginning and that is the end of all spiritual realization. Just like the beginning may be the new bhakta who walks into the temple for the first time. The end is the gopis' devotion to the Lord in Vrindavan. Both can have this understanding. I am the eternal servant of Krishna. Because it is the beginning point, it is the middle point, it is the end point of everything. It's like once they asked Srila Prabhupada, reporters asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, what are you going to get from all this chanting? And Prabhupada said, more chanting. Because they could not understand that chanting the holy name of Krishna itself is in itself a perfect spiritual activity that is equally applicable to the neophyte and to the advanced soul. It is a perfectly spiritual activity. When you are chanting Hare Krishna mantra, that is the same thing you will do now, or the same thing you will do 20, 30, 40 years from now, the same thing you will do next lifetime, and the same thing one will do in the liberated stage of existence. Even one is liberated, he will still be chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Narada Muni is doing it, and he is eternally liberated soul. This is the eternal occupational duty of the living entity, a Sanatana Dharma. So that beginning, that middle, that end, that faith that this is the essence of Krishna consciousness is there in the Madhyamadikari. He has faith. He's Shadavan, a faithful person. He knows that Krishna is his Lord and Master, and he serves him in that way. And when he sees others who are also serving Krishna like that, he's very happy to be in their association. He simply wants to associate with others who are also happy serving Krishna. And he avoids demons, envious persons, kripa upeksha. The kripanas are misers. They are those who are interested in their own self and nothing more. That is the definition of a miser. It's somebody who wants for himself and doesn't want to give to anybody else. But a devotee is just the opposite of a kripana. He is a very merciful person. And because of that mercy, it is prema maitri. He gives the mercy to others so that they may be benefited. And he avoids the demons because the envious persons, they can be never benefited and neither can anyone gain anything from them. One can simply lose everything good that he has gained. This is the Madhyama Adhikari. Madhyama Adhikaris are different than Prakrita Bhaktas. Prakrita Bhaktas, materialistic devotees, are those who know how to go to the temple and ring the bell. Definition Prabhupada once gave. In India nowadays, in most of the temples, they don't chant any more mantras. They just ring the bell. Everybody goes in the temple and bangs on pots and pans and bells and clangers and this and that. And there's a huge ruckus, big noise. That may be nice, but that is for the Prakrita Bhaktas, those who don't understand very much. It is also a question of knowledge. Knowledge is there in the Majjhima Adhikari. Not full knowledge. He cannot defeat everybody. In fact, he sometimes gets defeated. But he knows that if a higher class devotee were to answer that question, the person would be defeated. He has that faith. He just knows that he's not clever enough. But the Prakrita Bhakta, if he's defeated, he becomes full of bewilderment and doubt. He thinks there's something wrong with this philosophy because I've just been defeated. He doesn't have enough brain to understand that he that's wrong, not that the philosophy is wrong. So, Prakrita Bhakta does not know how to deal with others. He's very crude, rough, and improper in his dealings with other devotees, because he only sees that Krishna is God and nothing else. There's no higher principle than that, Prakrita Bhakta. He also doesn't know very much. Not very much knowledge. And this whole Krishna consciousness movement is meant to at least bring us to the Majjhima Adhikari platform. Of course, one can go higher to Uttama Adhikari platform, but he should not divorce himself from the reality of this material world. Not in our movement. We see the example of all our great acharyas in the disciplic succession coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of them were Uttama Adhikaris to the topmost degree. But they never simply withdrew or left the position of preacher. Because after all, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was God himself. Radha Krishna Nahayanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna. Why? If anyone should withdraw from the mundane existence, it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If anyone has the right, it's he. But he did not do. He was spending time preaching. And then after everybody was drowned in the ocean of love of Godhead, then he withdrew. So, all the acharyas in the line from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were either spending their full time writing literatures, which the whole disciplic succession depends on, Goswamis of Vrindavan, Rupa Sanatana especially, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, or they were engaged in preaching, directly preaching. Yeah. All of the great acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladeva Vidyabhushana, all preaching. In fact, it was because Jagannath Das Babaji was giving lectures that Bhaktivinoda Thakur understood the greatest mission was to bring Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Because Jagannath Das Babaji was preaching about it. When you hear of Babaji, that immediately means he does not preach. But if he was not preaching, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur would have never picked up this mission. So, although all of these personalities, even though they were very, very old, they were still preaching. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was the grand old patriarch of the whole disciplic succession. He was so old. In fact, when the Mayavadis challenged the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, you are all just sentimentalists. You do not have commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Although Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was ancient, He was ready to take up the commentary work, but he simply could not do it. It was just not possible. So his disciple, Baladev Vijayabhushana, took it up and wrote according to his principles, and wrote the Govinda Bhashya, which completely smashed to pieces all the Mayavadis, and they were astounded. And he went on preaching like anything. All the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were preaching like anything. Only at the very last days did they ever stop this preaching mission. They didn't even stop. Just like Prabhupada. Right up to his last breath, he was preaching by his example and preaching and encouraging us. Although no one had the greater right to go off into samadhi and completely leave us. But still, he said, how can I do that? You are all just children. What will become of all of you? So therefore, you can just see the example. Of course, for those who are already on the topmost platform of existence, there is no need to go into samadhi. For those who are not in the topmost platform of existence, there is some need in order to develop that attitude of the topmost devotee. But for those who are already the topmost devotee, there's no need to go into samadhi. They're already in samadhi. Their actions are samadhi. Therefore, the real definition of samadhi means that one is fixed in his devotional service to Krishna. Just like we consider the devotees of the spiritual world to be always beyond that platform of samadhi, because they're fully absorbed in their service to Krishna. That is samadhi. If you go to the spiritual world and say that, all right, all you gopis of Vrindavan, you're wasting your time running around here in these activities, now you should sit down under a tree and meditate on the Supreme Brahman and go into samadhi, they will think you're crazy and go on churning the butter for Krishna. They'll be very respectful. They will say, oh yes, that is for more advanced souls than we. We cannot do these things. We are not advanced enough. We will simply churn the butter and sing Krishna's glory. So, the real essence, whether you are on the super topmost platform of all, whether you are a new bhakta, it is the same. Jivar Svarupoy Krishna Nichadas. I am the eternal servant of Krishna and nothing else. That means whatever Krishna wishes, I shall do. Now, Krishna, he has given the mission in his disciplic succession, and Krishna has representatives, the spiritual masters, who are giving Krishna consciousness to the fallen conditioned souls by their giving the mission, giving the message of the mission which has been passed down through eternal time. And that is that same essential message. Jivar Swarupoy Krishna Nityada. I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And when one comes to some first platform of understanding that point, because he has chanted his 16 rounds a day for some time, we usually ask for 1 year or so, depending on the candidate, and he has been following the rules and regulations of this bhakti process, especially our 4 major rules and regulations, which are no eating of meat, fish, or eggs, no illicit sex life, no gambling, no intoxication, not even coffee, tea, cigarettes, and no forgetting of every day. Chanting 16 rounds. When one has done that for at minimum 1 year, then he becomes a candidate for initiation. Actually, adhikari, you become an adhikari. Adhikari really means candidate. That's another meaning of the word adhikari. You become a candidate for going back home, back to Godhead. This is called first initiation. You get your beads, and with those beads you now have the right to chant Hare Krishna and be connected to Krishna. And when one has realized that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, and that the holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna, then, and he has been around at least 1 year, steadily engaged in devotional service, then he will get the second initiation, the Brahminical initiation, whereby one will have a more firm connection with the spiritual master in disciplic succession. The Harinam initiation, we may be a little bit generous in giving. But second initiation, we are not very generous in giving. It is a lot more difficult. In fact, just for your information, I read a letter from Prabhupada the other day where he said that if one leaves Krishna consciousness after getting first initiated, he should not be given second initiation. So that just shows you how seriously he took this. That one should never leave Krishna consciousness after being first initiated. Otherwise he should not even be second initiated. And if one is second initiated, he should certainly never leave Krishna consciousness. Actually, you should never leave Krishna consciousness no matter what. What is the use? And if one leaves Krishna consciousness, what will he get? He'll get the pie in the face from Maya. Continually. Continually. You'll be slapped by Maya again and again and again until you surrender fully to Maya. And it is no pleasure in that. It is hellish existence. Therefore, what else is there but Krishna? There's only Maya. And Maya means trouble. A lot of trouble. Maya brings trouble to all of us. Therefore, one should stay in this Krishna consciousness movement and avoid that trouble. Of course, that's still a pretty selfish motivation. The best thing is to stay in the Krishna consciousness movement because one wants to preach Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. He wants to see that all these people become Krishna conscious. And whatever duty he can perform, whatever action he can perform to make that so, he will do it willingly, eagerly, and with great enthusiasm, just so that people get the chance of surrendering to Krishna. That's our whole purpose. Our whole purpose is just to give people the chance to surrender to Krishna. And all our devotees also shall be very eager to become Krishna conscious themselves. Good Vaishnava examples. It is very hard to find nowadays someone who's trained up in the Vaishnava principles. But still, we are trying hard. It is not like in India where you've got the good head start because people already are born in a pious land and already have a nice, more peaceful body, and they are already more fixed up in a proper culture from birth. We are born here in these Malecha lands, and we've got these Malecha bodies, and some smarta Brahmin in India would say, there's no hope for you. You simply have to die and take birth in India, then in a Brahmin family, then there's a possibility. But that is not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is anybody can become Krishna conscious. Anybody. Even you can become Krishna conscious. Does not matter. The famous verse by Sukadeva Goswami, Kirata Hunanja Pulinda Pukasha, where he says that even you come from all of these low-class families. Doesn't matter where, from all the different parts of the world. He lists all these different parts of the world. Even at the end, just brings out Yenye Chapapa. Doesn't matter, any sinful personality can become purified. Simply by taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord. Shajanti. Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. You simply chant the holy name of the Lord, you can become purified. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what your bodily condition is. All it takes is desire in the heart. And if desire is there in the heart, you can surrender to Krishna. If there's no desire in the heart, you cannot surrender to Krishna. It is very simple. Everybody is rascal. That is why we require this Krishna consciousness movement. But we require to give up this rascaldom by having some desire in our heart. This initiation helps to plant the desire. But if after initiation you take the material desires again and cover yourself with them, then what can be done? You can instruct somebody, don't touch the fire. You can chastise somebody, don't touch the fire. Why have you done this? You can forcibly hold somebody back for some time. But after all, people have things to do. Therefore, we will let go. At one point, it's like the mother can't hold the child up forever. At one point, mother has to let go and say, okay, now stand on your feet and walk. That's part of the process. Holding up can be there for some time. But at one point, there has to be walking on the own 2 feet. But if one doesn't want to stop grabbing fires and causing trouble to himself, if one doesn't stop, if one doesn't get to stand up on his own 2 feet on his own, what can be done? One is not baby forever in spiritual life. One has to finally understand all these instructions, follow them, and actually surrender to Krishna. So this is the message, an important factor in the initiation process. Surrender. When you get initiated, it means you surrender. Surrender to the spiritual master, and surrender to Krishna. It is not that after initiation one should think, let me think about this surrender. No. This initiation means you surrender. Not that later on you'll surrender. Not that you'll figure out someday how to surrender. Not that maybe you have to be convinced to surrender first. If you are not ready to surrender now, then don't get initiated. Open invitation. There's the door. That means you are surrendering to Krishna. That's wonderful. That is not some horribly ferocious, heavy, dramatic thing. Now I've got to surrender to Krishna. Like you go to the firing squad and they put the blindfold on. It is marvelous. It is the beginning of life. Surrendering to Krishna is actually the beginning of life. And surrendering to Maya is the end. It's the end. It's like you take the stake and put it in the heart. Maya puts her stake on you, the claim, you know? You just get staked to the ground by Maya. Nailed to the ground. Maya just nails you to the ground. It says, rot here. That's what it does. Maya nails you to the body and says, now rot. That's all the body does, is it rots. It's a rotting thing. But we think, well, my body has a very nice form. Look at it. It's not rotting. It's very beautiful. Well, no, it's a rotting thing. Do you think your body is more than a rotting thing? Just wait a few years. You'll find out. Now young and beautiful, yes. But you think that will last forever? In the songs of some of the acharyas, they're telling her, when I was young, I thought this would go on forever. Now I am old and useless, and I can see this was a grand illusion. And now in my old age, when I have no other choice, I'm now surrendering unto you, Krishna. Oh, please save me from all my foolishness. So, don't think that now you're young and you have nice, everybody strong, beautiful bodies. Well, forget it. It's not going to last. You can die tomorrow. You may die tomorrow. In fact, some of you will die tomorrow. Don't know here in this room, but somebody somewhere is going to die tomorrow. Therefore, it's time to surrender to Krishna now. Don't wait. If you wait, you never know. You simply never know. Therefore, better to be safe than sorry. Surrender to Krishna now. Don't be sorry. Don't be the one who's saying, as he's dying, oh God, help me. Because God only helps those who help themselves. If you help yourselves to surrender to Krishna, He will help you. If you do nothing, and at the last minute, as you're rotting in the deathbed, you're saying, oh, why did I waste my life? That's nice lamentation, but it does not help you very much. We have to prepare now. And besides that, even preparation aside, even if one is not intelligent enough to understand he should prepare, one should at least surrender to Krishna now, because there is no other actual existence than surrendering to Krishna. Everyone is surrendering to Krishna, be he rascal or be he a devotee. Everyone is surrendering to Krishna. We have to surrender to Krishna with voluntary love. This is the best methodology. Then with this pure love of the Supreme Lord developing gradually in the heart, we'll be able to go back home, back to Godhead, be able to please Krishna, be able to do something in such a way that the Supreme Lord will be very happy and pleased to give us His mercy. So mercy is a very hard commodity to come by in this world, because very few people have mercy. But if we can, somehow or another, just follow this devotional process and please Krishna by our service, mercy will come. So let's not forget that point. So any of the initiates have questions? Wouldn't dare ask, huh? Everybody has neck beads on? Let's see. Nice. All right. Now, you all have to move away here. Move that thing. Whose thing is this? You can tell me whose beads are these? And try to go around the line like from this way. Dr. Stefan. You know what to do? Nobody said? Okay, first you pay your dandavat. With chanting the mantra out loud. Yes? Now, what are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds every day? Okay? And your name is Sunanda Das. Bhaktinanda is one of the very famous associates of the Lord in the Vaikuntha plane. Bhakti tongues. And what are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds did you do? Okay. Your name is Tejas Das. Huh? Okay. Tejas is the name of one of my dear godbrothers too. Name which means the Brahma Tejas, power, potency of. Actually, the Brahmanas have great potency. Let's see, we just go down to this. Sora? What are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds every day? Okay. Your name is Tapastas. So you have to do some tapasya. The best tapasya is this. Jagyai Sankirtana Prayaya Yajanti Hi Sumedasha. Distributing millions of books. Pair? What are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds every day? Yes, and how are they chanted? On the computer? You'll make a program to chant 16 rounds? No, they are chanted out loud. All right. Your name is Prishni Garbadas. That is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Servant of. Runa? Yes. How many rounds every day? Yes. What are the four regulative principles? Okay. Now, we have to make a deal here. Now you see, you are wearing one dhoti. This looks very nice. But generally you are not wearing one dhoti. You are wearing something else. Now, it would be better if you always wear one dhoti. Of course, unless you are doing some work, that is another thing. Electrical work, or it's dirty, or it's freezing cold out there. But when you are in the temple room, you wear one dhoti. Alright? Is that deal? You will sign this piece of paper I have here? Alright. Yes? Alright. Your name is Ruchi Das. Ruchi Das. Ruchi is something we all want to attain. Taste. Yes. Dr. Harold. You can all put those beads around your neck if you don't have bead bag. If you have bead bag, put them in the bead bag. What are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds every day? And who's the supreme power supply? Must be Krishna. Why must it be Krishna? Oh, now he's going to get technical and lose me. Your name is Harihara. Harihara. Hari, name of Krishna, Hara, is actually, Hara comes from Mother Hara, as a name for Radharani. the internal potency of the Lord. So Hari and Hara has everything. We are the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, that's what all the names mean. You're all the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's Das, Das. Das and Devi Dasi. We are servants of the Supreme Lord. That's all. Okay, Bhakta Steve. Now I know you don't want to say the regulative principles in English, or did you practice them real good? You can say in Swedish if you like. It's easier. Very good. And how many rounds every day? Okay, very good. Your name is Suparna Das. Suparna is another name for the Supreme Personality of God who appeared in Satya Yuga. And Vegan, what are the four regulative principles? And how many rounds every day? Okay. Your name is Radha Priya Devi Dasi. You can give this to Rotan later to put on the board or whatever. And these three Brahmin initiates can come to my room right after this. You just bring the thread, and don't let it get all mushed up, and don't unravel it. It's proven I'm the only one who knows how to unravel the Brahmin threads. Alright, you may begin. You should have the colors already there before the whole thing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.